Hello. We are live currently. I thought maybe it's going to take a while for people to find this live stream. Maybe they won't find this live stream, but maybe let's start in case people scrub back and look at this by just telling everyone who we are, and I can describe what we're doing here. So, Louise, maybe you can introduce yourself.
Hi, Louise Story. I'm the new Chief Executive Officer at Atlas Obscura, one of the most impactful travel, content, and community platforms. And I'm thrilled to be here with you, Dylan, and excited for this conversation.
I think it'll be fun. So I'm Dylan Thuras. I'm the co-founder and creative director at Atlas Obscura. And the reason this conversation is happening is because Louise is getting, started and getting to know everyone. And we were having a Zoom meeting that looked very much like this. And Louise is like, what is happening behind you? And then I explained, over the course of many years of travel and collecting, I have amassed many strange objects. My wife and I have amassed many strange objects. Many of these are hers. I have to give credit where credit's due. And so when we moved into this house, a lot of the stuff used to be all over our apartment in Brooklyn. There was stuff everywhere. A lot of natural history stuff. Some of it's too big to fit in this cabinet, actually, but it all ended up in there. And so we thought it could be really fun to like pull some stuff out of this cabinet. Louise, you don't know anything about what's in there, so all this is going to be.
I know nothing, but I think we're calling this show the Curio cabinet, right?
Yeah, that's what I called it. I called it the Curio cabinet. That's
Curio
right.
cabinet, yeah, and totally related to what we work on every day, since we are focusing on curious, wondrous, interesting, different, wow-inspiring things around the world. And so surprise us, Dylan. I want to know what you're going to take out of the cabinet today.
Okay. One of the first thing actually from Mexico, I'm going to have to bring us to the cabinet because it doesn't come out of the cabinet that easily. So I think that's probably thing one. We'll start in Mexico. We're going to start in Puebla, which is a city just 2 hours outside of Mexico City. But it's a wonderful, beautiful city. It's got the I'm going to pronounce it wrong. I want the Cholula pyramid, like the same as the hot sauce, but it was this giant hill that for a long time no one thought it was a giant hill. They built a Spanish Catholic church on top of it. Lo and behold, the hill was this giant temple with all of these passageways through it. It's one of the largest temples in the world. And now you can go and actually like go into the temple and go through the passageways. It's quite surreal because there's sort of this Catholic church on top of this temple. So many layers of syncretic religious history there. But let me take you to the object that I'm gonna show you. So let me move a chair first and then we'll go.
As you're walking over there, I'll tell you, I've been to Mexico many times, but I have not been to Puebla. And so I'll have to add this as one of the places I want to go.
It's a great little city. And viewers, I know there's only a couple of you out there, but if you have questions, just put them in the comments. So, okay, let's see if I can set this up to see appropriately. Can we get close enough?
We're close. I'm like, I feel like, we're going inside the cabinet.
Good. Yes, you are going inside the cabinet. So this little thing here, and I'll sort of like make appearances. This little thing here is a tiny diorama. Maybe I need to lower you a tiny bit to see it really, really well.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
That's better. You're on level. Great.
We're on level.
This is a tiny diorama that I bought in Puebla at a place called the Museum of Miniatures. And you can see in here, it's basically a street scene with little nuns in it, in their habits, walking down a kind of alleyway. You can see the little street light. The buildings look, very much like what Puebla looks like. And then it's got this kind of eerie lighting to it, which is a little LED in the top that I've had to fix a couple of times. But
so Dylan, is it plugged in?
It is plugged in. Yeah, that's why it's hard to take out. So it's plugged in so that it can light up.
First of all, that's a really good thing about your Curio cabinet, that you've got plugs in there.
Yeah, we managed to like run a line out. So I'll take it away for now. We can go back and look at it. I'll go back over here and tell you the story of it.
Tell us the story.
So to get to this museum of miniatures, I was there for a conference, and I had, a day to go exploring, which I always try to do when I'm in a city, is like leave myself. Usually it's one day, sometimes half a day, but enough time to go see something there. And so to go to this place, you go to like a hotel courtyard, and you're kind of like, what am I doing in here? It's sort of like an open air plaza next to a hotel, and there's a coffee shop. And then tucked away in here was this little museum of miniatures. And the whole place was made by one guy named Saul Navarro Escalante. And he attended like art school in I think Mexico City when he was younger. And it wasn't until I think he was in maybe his 30s or 40s that he found miniatures as his calling. But this little tiny museum is stuffed with 100 little dioramas like that. That's one of the much simpler ones. Some of them are incredibly elaborate.
Dylan, did you meet him?
Of course, because you go in and there's a little old guy puttering around, futzing with this and that. And that's him. This is his, it's like
Cool.
it's his little space. It's his
How
artistic.
how often would you say, because you have gone to so many off the beaten path places, you've put so many places in the Atlas Obscura Atlas. How often have you gone to places like this where you're there before the founder is gone? You're there before the staff has come in. Like you're meeting the person. How often is that?
Almost every time there's something like this, or I shouldn't say that. I'd say at least 50% of the time you are meeting the person who made the thing, because this is not like, it ain't big business, if you know what I mean. Like this is someone's true lifelong passion. And he sells the miniatures in there. Some of them are not for sale. Some of them are like permanent pieces in the collection. But others were for sale. And I didn't speak enough Spanish, and he did not speak enough English for us to have much of a conversation. But I was able to convey my utter amazement at the like level of craft and skill and artistry he brought to all of these. And then I was able to buy one, and I very carefully wrapped it up.
Can you tell us? Do you remember how much it cost?
So it was like $80. It was like, for a piece of original art, it felt like a steal. And there was a part of me that just wanted to buy like 10 of them. I don't know where I would have put them. I don't know, but they were just so amazing. And I will say there's a little bit of a mystery or an unanswered question in here. It looks like the museum is closed now. There was an earthquake that seems to have affected the area, and the museum says to be closed. And I really looked, and I cannot quite find out what the story is. Is it actually closed? What did he do with all of these miniatures? Where are they? Are they in his house?
Well, I'm hearing a trip is on your horizon.
I think, or maybe
to go.
Maybe like a shout into the ether of, if anyone is in Puebla or nearby, go and seek out the Museum of Miniatures, seek out Saul Navarro Escalante. I assume he's still alive. He was probably in his 50s or 60s when I met him, which was only like
when they get the answer for us, how are they going to update us?
Send us a note to, hello@atlasobscura.com will work. Dylan@atlasobscura.com will work. Most of our names.
Yeah. I have one too, CEO@atlasobscura.com. Any of those addresses. We want to hear from you. Yeah.
There you go. So if you know what happened to the artist or the museum, I would love to know. So that's a one I really appreciate. And it's the only thing actually in the whole cabinet besides the little lights that like plugs in and has its own little light. So it's a special one. So
how many things do you have in there, Dylan? Can we see another one? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, let me grab another one. I'll bring this one over. Okay. I don't know. My wife, Michelle, has also started collecting. We kind of are trying to keep things a little bit contained. So our collections have shrunk in size. So Michelle has been collecting some things like teeny tiny baskets.
Are you Marie Kondoing your curio cabinet?
Well, we're just trying to contain it from like overtaking. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay.
There's a lot. I would say there's over 1,000 objects in there for sure. I don't know the exact count, but there's so many weird little things. But let me
Okay.
get one other thing, because I know you just went to Peru. So I wanted to
I did.
grab something from Peru, and I want to hear about your trip, because you went to one of my favorite places of all
I
time.
was just there a few weeks ago, and while you're getting it, I'll just tell you my favorite part was when I went to the Kawasaka Bridge, which you had gone to over a decade before. And of course, we did the normal stuff. We went to Machu Picchu, right? And we saw the Maras and the Marais rings, but going to something that was off the beaten path and frankly, it took a little courage to walk on was the best part. So thank you for putting that on the map. And it was awesome.
I'm so glad you made the trip. It's a long trip. Well, it's probably like a 4-hour drive. I know you got up at.
I was staying in the Sacred Valley. So that's north of Cusco, right? And so it was 4.5 hours because we had to go down through Cusco to get down there. And I did it the day I was flying out. So then when I came back, I just drove to Cusco. But I'll just tell you, I was said to my hotel from the day I got there, that I wanted to go to this bridge. And they'd heard of the bridge. Yeah. And I said, so can I go out? Is anyone can take me? They have guides to expositions. Every day they're saying, we're checking. 3 days later, they said, we're not sure we can find a guide who goes there. And I just said, listen, I don't need a guide. Just get me a taxi.
Hire a van. Yeah.
Taxi. And I speak Spanish. So I got to know the taxi driver really well. And it was terrific. So Atlas Obscura was my guide.
I'm glad. Yeah, the Quechua-Chaca, the sometimes called the last Incan bridge, it remains it's in my top 5 for sure. Because it's just, first off, if you have any if you grew up with the Indiana Jones and you have any sort of it's this swinging rope bridge woven from grass. It's basically got the word adventure written across it in capital letters, but more than that, it's got this crazy historical connection to the Incan infrastructure. Anyway, so speaking of the Incans, the Incans were this great empire. They were kind of like the Romans. They were sort of a very aggressive empire to their neighbors. And so this is not from that bridge. I used to have a piece of the Quechua-Chaca bridge. I brought it back with me. And then in a move, it got thrown away because it looks like nothing. It looks like a piece of old twine. And so somehow it didn't make it. And so very sad. But anyway, this is from Lake Titicaca. When the Incans were expanding, they forced the Uros people basically off their land. And the Uros retreated onto Lake Titicaca, onto these islands made entirely out of reeds. And Josh, my co-founder, has written a piece about this. But one of the interesting things about this area and the Incan Empire in general is many of the different cultures were all masters of fiber. There was other stuff that didn't get invented or was sort of, like everyone talks about how the wheel was never invented. They had little toys. The wheel didn't make sense for certain reasons in the Incan Empire. Anyway, what they were really the best at in the entire world was fiber crafts. Same with the Uros. And so they retreated onto these floating reed islands, and then they wove their boats out of reeds. They wove.
That you're holding, would it float?
Yeah, it should absolutely float. It would 100% float.
Tested it? Did you put the basket?
Should we test it? I can get a boat.
I just want to know if the real deal, and if this fiber works, if it will stay up on the water.
Let me get a bowl of water, and we're going to test this. All right, you talk more about the Quechua-Chaca while I do.
Yeah, I'll talk about Peru. So one of the coolest things after we went to the bridge, I was at the bridge with my 8-year-old, and when we finished it, he said, that was the best part of our trip, Mom. It was better than the other places. And I said, it's because we went off the beaten path. We walked the other way. And so then we were driving to the airport, and about half an hour later, my son said, what is that rock over there? And he's pointing to this huge rock behind a house. And I'm a New Yorker. Normally I would have said, I don't know. We've got to get to the airport. But I was in such a mind frame of discovery after going to the bridge. I said, let's go see. Let's go look at the rock. So I tell the taxi driver, we pull over. We go over to this rock. There's a little fence around it, a little plaque. Turns out it's a volcano. It's a 26-foot high volcano, which it's a little difficult to prove these things, but basic internet research shows some others that are bigger that people are calling the smallest volcanoes in the world. So it's definitely one of the smaller ones. And so anyways, we saw it, we took photos, and now it's in the Atlas Obscura map. We submitted it. So anyways, it was cool what happens when you get into more of a discovery frame of mind.
Totally. So I've never been here and I've always wanted to go, but somewhere at the end of some dead end street in New Jersey is another teeny tiny volcano. Teeny tiny volcano. Yeah. Like the ancient volcano. All right, are we ready to test this? Here, I'm gonna tilt this down and you can see, does this actually float? I've never tried, but I think it will. Yes.
Yeah, it's working.
It's working. It floats. That's pretty good, honestly.
That's cool.
So yeah, Josh and I, actually on the same trip that took us to the Lastington Bridge, we stayed on one of these islands, which you can do. It's like a real tourist kind of thing now if you're willing to kind of make the journey. We stayed on one of the islands. You walked around and the whole thing's kind of like it moves and is squishy and you're floating around the whole lake. And what's kind of interesting is there's still a relatively traditional way of life maintained there. But at the same time, because it's become a tourist site, a lot of their kids have gone to tourism school. So they leave the islands, they go to school, and then come back and help sort of continue on this practice. And I think that that's actually quite nice because it's a thing that these people are sort of in control of and helping kind of continue on in a way that represents themselves, but is also a helpful business line.
It's really unique, Dylan, in the way the global economy and certainly the economy in the US has gone, is that there's very few kids who could come back to something special and economic from their families and continue it. If you're the child of a small business owner, you can do that, but it's not the most people, right? And so that's a special thing, in that culture, that there is that thing to come back to. You can come back and help the business of it.
And in a weird way, I think this is what authenticity looks like in this day. People go in search of sort of the authentic travel experience, and they think that what that means is somehow stuff that's uncomplicated by the modern world. But in fact, in reality, what it looks like is, yeah, my kids studied for 4 years in the city and learned about tourism economics and got a degree and actually spent 8 years doing some other career and then has come back and is now, and at night drives off on a motorboat and stays in an apartment in town. That's reality, but it's not any less interesting than maybe the more romanticized idea. You just have to sort of, maybe get rid of some ideas about what authentic experiences are. Authentic experiences are the experiences you're having, Anyway, so that was thing 2.
We could leave it there. We're going to be
I can hold off on thing 3. We got, maybe we'll.
We have 1,000 things to go through, so I think we should be next week.
Okay, all right, that sounds good. Those are fun. Those are both, Central South America. Next week we'll go the other direction. We'll go maybe over to Europe and maybe even Asia and talk about some stuff from there. So,
maybe we will have heard from someone in Puebla.
Yes, and maybe we will solve the mystery of what happened to all of these dioramas and this wonderful artist. I hope so. Cool.
Thanks, Dylan. See you next week.
Okay, see you next episode. All right.